The courtroom erupted into panic. Reporters surged forward, flashes from their cameras scattering light across the polished marble floor. The triplets froze, each of them staring at their father sprawled on the ground, his face pale and his chest rising in uneven gasps. "Someone call for an ambulance," shouted the clerk. 2 guards and a paramedic stationed at the court entrance rushed to Chief Oladran's side. Justice Adeniyi remained seated, though his piercing gaze followed every movement. The entire room could feel the gravity of the moment. Zuri's heart pounded in her chest. She hadn't wanted this, not like this. She wanted her father to face justice, not collapse under its weight. Zane gripped her arm tightly. "Don't move," he muttered. "We can't let anyone tamper with that evidence." The medic checked Chief Oladran's pulse, then nodded grimly. "He's alive, but his heartbeat is unstable. He needs immediate attention." Within minutes, a stretcher arrived. As the medics lifted him, his eyes fluttered open. For a brief moment, he looked directly at Zane. There was something strange, something almost knowing, in that gaze. Then, with effort, he whispered, "You don't know what you've started." Before Zane could respond, the medics whisked him away, leaving behind an echo of unease. Justice Adeniyi finally spoke, his voice calm but cold. "Court is adjourned until further notice. The evidence will be secured by the court registrar until the defendant is medically fit to continue trial. Mr. Zane, Miss Zuri, Miss Zara, do not leave the city until summoned." He struck his gavel once more, ending the session. Outside the courthouse, the sun had dipped low behind the skyline, turning the clouds orange and gold. Crowds gathered beyond the gates, journalists, onlookers, and curious citizens whispering rumors about the high-profile case. "Did you see the way he collapsed?" someone said. "They say the triplets found video evidence," another replied. "Justice Adeniyi himself is handling it. This will shake the whole country." The triplets pushed through the noise, silent and tense. Zara finally spoke as they reached their mother's car. "Do you think Daddy really had a heart attack? Or is this just another trick?" Zane's jaw clenched. "If I've learned anything from him, it's that he never does anything without a reason. I won't trust it until we know more." Zuri sighed deeply. "Right now, all that matters is Mama. We need to go to the hospital." The drive to Ibadan Central Medical Center was heavy with silence. The city lights blurred past, but each of them was lost in thought, replaying the courtroom scene, the evidence, the strange words their father had uttered. When they arrived, the hospital smelled of antiseptic and faintly of sorrow. Nurses recognized them immediately. The story of the Oladran family had already become headline news. A nurse led them down a corridor lined with pale blue walls and humming fluorescent lights. "Your mother's condition is stable," she said softly. "But she hasn't regained full consciousness yet." They entered the private ward. Their mother lay motionless, her face peaceful yet pale, tubes connecting her to a monitor that beeped rhythmically. Zuri sat beside her, gently holding her hand. "Mama," she whispered, "we are fighting for you. Please, please wake up." Zane stood at the foot of the bed, his expression hardening. "I'll make sure he pays for what he did," he said under his breath. "Even if it's the last thing I do." Zara wiped a tear from her cheek. "Zane, don't talk like that. We need to focus on the truth, not revenge." Zane turned sharply toward her. "The truth is revenge when it sets the record straight." The room fell silent again. That night, none of them could sleep. Zane sat at the hospital cafeteria, laptop open, staring at the flash drive. He wanted to watch it alone before handing it over to the court registrar. But fear tugged at his conscience. What if the video showed more than he expected? He hesitated for several minutes, then finally inserted the drive into his laptop. The screen flickered. A folder appeared, one video file, timestamped the same night their mother was hospitalized. He clicked it. The recording began shaky, as though someone had set the phone on the desk accidentally. The camera pointed toward the bedroom doorway. Voices filled the room, his parents arguing. Fonmeleo's voice came first, pleading. Oladran, please stop this madness. Don't do this. We have children to think of. Then came his father's cold reply, children or not, you signed the wrong papers, Fonme. Those properties are mine, not yours. And I will make sure everyone knows you're unfit to manage them. Fonmeleo's voice trembled. You forged the documents, didn't you? That's why you want me gone, so no one finds out. There was a loud crash, then silence. The camera caught a blur of motion, Oladran raising something metallic, perhaps a vase. Fonmeleo screamed. Then the phone fell sideways, capturing only fragments, the hem of her dress, a splash of red on the tiles, and his father's shadow looming over her. The video ended abruptly. Zane's chest tightened. He sat frozen, staring at the screen long after it went black. Zuri's voice broke through the silence behind him. You shouldn't have watched that alone. He turned. She had been standing there all along, tears glistening in her eyes. I needed to know, he said quietly. Now we have proof. The question is, what happens next? Zuri nodded slowly. We'll take it to the judge in the morning. But, she hesitated, something still doesn't add up. What do you mean? Why would Daddy threaten Mama about property she already owned? Unless, she trailed off, frowning deeply. Unless there's someone else involved. Zane's brow furrowed. Someone else. Before she could respond, Zara burst into the cafeteria, breathless. Zane. Zuri. Mama's moving, she just opened her eyes. They sprinted back to the ward. The heart monitor beeped faster now, and their mother's eyelids fluttered open. Her gaze was weak but filled with tears. Zuri. Zane. Zara, she whispered. Mama. Zuri knelt beside her, gripping her hand tightly. You're awake. Thank God. Fonmeleo struggled to speak, her voice barely audible. Don't trust anyone. Zane leaned in closer. Mama, it's okay. We know what Daddy did. We have proof. But she shook her head weakly, tears rolling down her cheeks. No, my son, it's not just your father. The triplets exchanged confused glances. Zuri asked softly, Mama, what do you mean? Fonmeleo swallowed hard, her breath shaky. He wasn't walking alone. Someone powerful, someone close to the judge. Her voice broke, and the heart monitor began to beep erratically. Mama. No, please. Zara cried, calling for the nurse. Doctors rushed in, pushing the triplets aside as alarms sounded. Zane's heart pounded in his ears. The revelation echoed in his mind, someone close to the judge. Justice Adeniyi. The billionaire magistrate whose name commanded fear. As the medical team worked frantically to stabilize their mother, Zane stood frozen at the doorway. For the first time, he realized that their battle for justice was far bigger and far more dangerous than any of them could have imagined. The rain poured relentlessly that morning, drumming against the hospital windows as if the sky itself mourned with the triplets. The storm outside mirrored the chaos within them. They stood outside the intensive care unit, still shaken by their mother's sudden relapse. Nurses rushed in and out, whispering instructions. The red light above the door blinked, a signal that doctors were still fighting to save her. Zuri leaned her head against the cold wall, eyes swollen from crying. I don't understand, she whispered. How can this keep happening to her? She was getting better. Zara wrapped her arms around her sister. Mama's strong. She'll pull through. She has to. But Zane stood apart, staring out the rain-blurred window, mind racing. His mother's final words before collapsing played on repeat in his head. Someone close to the judge. He clenched his fist. There's more to this case than what we've seen. Dad's not the only villain here. Zuri turned toward him. Zane, please, don't start that again. The evidence is clear, Daddy hurt Mama. Maybe, he said, his voice low, but Mama wasn't talking about just him. She said someone close to the judge. Why mention the judge at all if this was just about family? Before Zuri could answer, a doctor stepped out of the ICU, pulling down his mask. She's stable for now, he said gently. But she's too weak to speak. She needs rest and protection from stress. Zuri exhaled shakily. Thank you, doctor. The man gave a sympathetic nod. You children are brave. I heard everything that's happening in court. But be careful. Powerful people don't like being exposed. The doctor's words struck Zane like a warning bell. Later that evening, the triplets returned to their small rented apartment near Ring Road. The place was modest, one of the many sacrifices they'd made to distance themselves from their father's influence. Their father's company had frozen all their accounts, cutting them off completely once they began speaking against him. Zuri sank into the warm couch. We need to figure out our next move before the next hearing. That video will expose Daddy, but we need to be ready for whatever comes. Zane pulled out his laptop again. I'm going to back up that video to a cloud server. If anything happens to me or the flash drive, the evidence will still exist. Zara frowned. Don't say things like that. He didn't reply. His instincts were on high alert. A knock suddenly echoed through the apartment. The triplets exchanged glances. Who could that be this late? Zuri whispered. Zane approached the door cautiously and peered through the peephole. A tall man in a dark suit stood outside, holding a briefcase. He looked official, calm, but something about his stillness felt unsettling. Yes. Who are you? Zane asked through the door. Good evening, the man said politely. My name is Barrister Cole. I'm here on behalf of Justice Adikana Adeniyi. May I come in? The triplet stiffened. The judge. Why would the billionaire magistrate send someone to their home at this hour? Zuri unlocked the door hesitantly. The man entered, shaking off the rain from his umbrella. His face was expressionless, his tone formal. The Honorable Justice wishes to speak with you privately tomorrow morning, before the trial resumes. Why? Zane asked immediately. Barrister Cole adjusted his glasses. He says it concerns the integrity of your evidence. He insists it must be verified through official court channels. Zane narrowed his eyes. That's strange. The judge already said the registrar would secure it. Cole smiled faintly, almost mechanically. Yes. But in sensitive cases like this, direct verification is sometimes necessary. Zuri folded her arms. And what if we refuse? Cole's smile didn't falter. Refusal could be interpreted as obstruction. I'm merely delivering the message. The Honorable Justice expects you at his private residence by 10 a.m. He handed them a card with an embossed gold crest, Justice Adeniyi's insignia, and turned toward the door. Good night, and be punctual. He dislikes delays. As soon as the door shut behind him, Zane's got twisted. I don't trust him, he said flatly. Neither do I, Zay added. The judge has everything he needs to contact us officially. Why send someone here? Zara bit her lip nervously. Maybe it's just protocol. Zane shook his head. No. Something's off. Mama said someone close to the judge. What if that person's manipulating him, or worse, working with Dad? They sat in silence, the only sound the rain hammering against the window. Finally, Zay spoke. We'll go tomorrow. But we won't go unprepared. Zane nodded. Agreed. We'll record everything, just in case. The next morning, the triplets arrived at the judge's mansion, a sprawling estate on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by iron gates and thick hedges. Two guards in black uniforms greeted them and led them into a marble-floored sitting room filled with expensive artwork and gold accents. Moments later, Justice Adikana Adeniyi himself entered. He was tall, with a commanding presence and calm eyes that revealed nothing of his thoughts. He wasn't wearing his usual robe, just a white traditional abode embroidered with fine silver threads. "Oh, the famous triplets," he said with a faint smile. "I must say, your courage has become the talk of the nation." Zuri bowed slightly. "Good morning, my lord. We were told you wanted to see us." "Yes," he replied, lowering himself into a seat. "You've brought forward serious accusations against a respected man. I admire your boldness, but I also know how dangerous half-truths can be." Zane frowned. "Half-truths?" Justice Adeniyi looked directly at him. "Your father's collapse was not coincidental. There are forces at play here that even I cannot control. I called you because I believe someone is trying to manipulate this entire case, including me." Zuri's eyes widened. "Are you saying someone's threatening you too?" The judge leaned forward, his voice dropping. "There's a network of powerful individuals tied to your father's companies. They've been laundering money through fake property transfers. Your mother may have discovered their secret, and that's why she was attacked." Zane's jaw tightened. "Do you know who these people are?" A shadow crossed the judge's face. "One of them is in this very court system. I suspect my own registrar. But I need proof." "That's where you come in." He paused, studying them carefully. "I want you to bring me the original flash drive tomorrow morning before the session begins. I'll use it to expose everyone involved." The triplets exchanged wary glances. Zuri hesitated. "With respect, my lord, why not take it through official procedure? We already submitted it for evidence." The judge's calm demeanor faltered for a moment. "Because I don't trust anyone else right now. If that drive falls into the wrong hands, it disappears. Understand?" Zane nodded slowly. "We'll think about it." "Do more than think," Justice Adeniyi said firmly. "Do the right thing." As they stood to leave, he added quietly, "And children, be careful who you talk to. Not everyone wearing a robe stands for justice." Outside, Zane exhaled shakily. "Something's not right." Zane agreed. He's scared. But if what he said is true, we're all in more danger than we realize. Zara looked back at the massive mansion. "What do we do now?" Zane stared into the distance, his expression darkening. "We find out the truth before anyone else does. Because if Mama's right, this web of lies goes deeper than family, and the judge might be part of it." That night, as they huddled around their small dining table, Zane connected his laptop again. He decided to review the video once more, this time checking the background sounds, hoping to catch a clue. But as he played it, something new caught his ear, a faint voice in the background that hadn't been clear before. It wasn't his father's. It wasn't his mother's. It was another man's voice, whispering, "Finish it quickly. We can't let the judge find out she knows." Zane's heart froze. He replayed it twice. The same chilling words. He turned slowly to his sisters. "That voice, doesn't it sound familiar?" Zuri leaned closer, eyes wide. Zara covered her mouth. Zuri whispered, "It sounds like Barrister Cole. The very man who had come from the judge's house that morning." Zane's hand trembled as he paused the video. "If that's true," he said, his voice low and grim, "then the judge's circle is already compromised. And tomorrow," Zane added, eyes full of fear, "we're supposed to hand that flash drive straight into their hands." The three of them sat in stunned silence, the sound of the rain fading into an eerie stillness. They had uncovered a dangerous truth, but they had no idea just how far the conspiracy reached, or how close the enemy truly was. The next morning arrived with a strange stillness. The rain had stopped, but the air felt heavy, thick with secrets and fear. The triplets barely spoke as they prepared to leave for the courthouse. Each of them was lost in thought, weighed down by what they had discovered the night before, the hidden voice in the recording, the whisper that could change everything. Zari clutched the flash drive tightly in her palm, her heartbeat steady but fast. "We can't just hand it over," she said, breaking the silence. "Not until we know who's really on our side." Zane nodded, already one step ahead. "That's why we'll give them a copy, not the original. I've hidden the real one somewhere safe." Zara looked at him anxiously. "Where?" He smiled faintly. "Let's just say it's in a place only Mama would know." The sisters exchanged a look but didn't press further. Time was short. The courthouse was even more crowded than before. News vans lined the streets, and journalists jostled for angles. This case had become a national obsession, the story of triplets challenging their own father, and a billionaire judge caught in the middle. Inside, whispers followed them as they entered. Zane noticed Barrister Cole standing by the hallway, speaking quietly with a clerk. His cold smile returned the moment he saw them. "Good morning, young Oladrans," he greeted smoothly. "The judge is expecting you. I trust you brought what he requested." Zane forced a polite nod. "We did." They followed him into a small private room behind the courtroom, a dimly lit space filled with old files and a single table. Justice Adeniyi was already seated, his eyes sharp, his demeanor unreadable. "You're punctual," he said. "Good. Let's make this quick." Zuri stepped forward, handing him the flash drive. "This is the copy, my lord. The original is secured until we verify its chain of custody." Justice Adeniyi's expression hardened slightly. "You don't trust me?" Zane met his gaze evenly. "We don't trust anyone until the truth is revealed." The judge stared at him for a long moment, then, unexpectedly, he smiled faintly. "Wise words. Very well. Let's see what you have." He plugged the flash drive into his laptop. The video began to play. But halfway through, the screen glitched. The judge frowned, tapping the keyboard. "This file seems corrupted." Zane leaned forward. "That's strange, it played perfectly last night." Suddenly, the door burst open. Two uniformed officers stormed in, guns drawn. "Justice Adeniyi, sir," one shouted. "Step away from them. You're under investigation for obstruction of justice." The room erupted into confusion. Barrister Cole backed away, his face pale. "What nonsense is this?" the judge roared, standing to his full height. "Who dares?" The lead officer cut him off. "We have a warrant issued by the Federal Crime Commission. Evidence suggests you attempted to tamper with a witness's submission." Gasps echoed through the hallway as reporters tried to push their way in. Zuri froze. "What's happening?" Zane stared at the officers, his mind spinning. Could this be real, or another trap? Barrister Cole quickly regained his composure. "This is ridiculous. My lord, these are false accusations." "Quiet," backed the officer. "We also have reason to believe you, Barrister Cole, were involved in a conspiracy linked to Chief Oladran's illegal dealings." Zara's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God." The officer turned to the triplets. "Mr. Zane, Miss Zuri, Miss Zara, you need to come with us as witnesses. We've uncovered new evidence that could change everything." Zane's mind raced. If this was real, it meant someone inside the system had flipped. But if it wasn't, it could be the perfect setup. He glanced at Justice Adeniyi, who met his eyes coldly. For the first time, the judge looked truly human, cornered, vulnerable. "Zane," he said quietly, "you think you understand the truth, but you don't. If they take me down, the real monsters walk free. Before Zane could ask what he meant, the officers escorted the judge and barrister call out. The hallway outside was chaos, reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, police sirens wailing. The triplets stood frozen amidst the commotion. Zuri whispered, "Zane, what if Momo's warning wasn't about the judge himself, but about someone using him?" Zane clenched his fist. "Then we need to find out who that someone is, before they come for us." That evening, they sat back at the hospital beside their mother's bed. The news played softly on the television, reporters announcing the shocking arrest of a billionaire judge and his lawyer. But something about it didn't sit right. Zane switched off the TV. "It's too clean. Too weak." They wanted the world to see a public scandal, but not the real story. Zuri rubbed her temples. "We are just kids compared to the people involved. How do we fight something this big?" Zane looked at her, determination blazing in his eyes. "We expose them. Not through the court, not through power, but through truth." He pulled out his phone and began recording a video. "We tell our story, every detail, and show the world what's been happening behind those courtroom doors. If they can silence a judge, they'll silence us next unless we speak out first." Zuri hesitated. "Zane, that could make us targets." "Maybe," he interrupted. "But if the people know the truth, they can't bury it." He hit record. The camera focused on his face, raw with emotion. "My name is Zane Oladran. My sisters and I are standing for our mother, who lies in this hospital because of greed, corruption, and betrayal. We have evidence, proof of what happened. If anything happens to us, that evidence will surface. We are not afraid anymore." Zara's hand trembled as she reached for his shoulder. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Zane nodded. "It's the only way." Zuri joined in, her voice calm but strong. "If you're watching this, know that truth has a price, but silence costs even more." They uploaded the video. Within minutes, it began spreading like wildfire. The next morning, news channels were flooded with the story. Triplet children of Chief Oladran leak shocking video evidence against father and corrupt legal officials. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse demanding justice. The Attorney General called for an emergency review of the entire case. But as the triplets watched from their small apartment, a strange message appeared on Zane's phone. A number he didn't recognize. The message read, "You shouldn't have done that. You've just exposed more than your family's story. They're coming for you next." Zane's face went cold. He showed the message to his sisters. Zuri swallowed hard. "Who sent that?" Before anyone could answer, there was a loud knock on their door. They froze. The knocking came again, harder this time. Zane whispered, "Don't say a word." The handle turned. And just as the door creaked open, a shadow stepped into the room. The knock echoed again, sharp, deliberate, and full of authority. The triplets froze where they stood, their hearts racing in rhythm with the thudding sound. Zane motioned for Zuri and Zara to stay back. He moved toward the door quietly, every step filled with caution. The metallic knob creaked as he turned it slowly. When the door finally opened, what stood there wasn't what they expected. A woman, tall, poised, and dressed in a dark suit, stepped in. Her expression was calm, her voice cool and commanding. "Zane Oladran," she asked, flashing a badge. "My name is Agent Ariti Ajayi. Federal Crime Commission." Zane blinked, uncertain. "You're the one who sent that message?" "No," she replied. "But whoever did, wants you to believe we're the enemy." She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "We don't have much time. You've stirred something very big, something your father was only a small part of." Zuri frowned. "What do you mean small part?" "He's behind everything, Momo's accident, the stolen contracts, the corruption. Agent Iriti cut her off gently. Your father was a puppet. The real power lies in the people who paid him. And the video you released. It didn't just expose him, it exposed them. Zara's voice trembled. Who are they? Agent Iriti looked around the room, ensuring no one was listening. Then she whispered, a network called the Consortium. They operate beneath every major government deal, judiciary, police, media. Your video just disrupted one of their biggest laundering operations. The room fell silent. Zane stepped closer. So, what do they want from us? Silence, the agent replied simply. Or elimination. Zane's heart sank. Are you saying we're in danger? Agent Iriti nodded grimly. You already are. That's why I'm here. Someone in the FCC leaked your address. They'll come for you tonight. Zane clenched his fist. Then help us fight back. I intend to, she said. But first, you must trust me. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small black drive. This contains encrypted data from Justice Adeniyi's personal computer, emails, bank logs, and communication with a man named Chief Adidran, your father's former associate. He's the link to the consortium. Zane took the drive carefully. How did you get this? Iriti gave a faint, tired smile. Let's just say Adeniyi didn't delete as much as he thought. Before anyone could respond, a sudden noise shattered the moment, a car screeching to a stop outside. Then came the sound of heavy boots approaching the door. Agent Iriti's eyes widened. They're early. Grab what you can. Zuri snatched the hospital file, Zara grabbed their mother's documents, and Zane slipped both flash drives into his pocket. The first gunshot cracked through the night. Glass shattered. Down! Iriti shouted, pulling them behind the couch. Bullets tore through the walls, splintering wood and spraying dust across the room. Zane's heart pounded so loud he could barely hear anything else. Iriti crawled to the corner, pulled out a pistol, and fired 2 quick shots toward the window. We need an exit route, Zara. Is there a back door? Yes, through the kitchen. They moved quickly, crouching low. As they reached the kitchen, another round of shots rang out, closer this time. Iriti kicked open the back door. Go, now. The triplets dashed into the alley, the cold night air biting against their faces. Sirens wailed in the distance, but no help came. Zane turned to Iriti. Where do we go? There's a safe house, she said breathlessly. But first, we need to get to your mother. She's the real target. If they can't reach you, they'll use her. Zuri froze. Mama. She's at the hospital. Not anymore, Iriti said grimly. I got a report, an unmarked van arrived there 10 minutes ago. The guards have gone missing. Zane's words spun. No, that can't be true. Iriti grabbed his arm. If we move now, we can still intercept them before they reach the state highway. But you have to trust me completely. Zane looked at his sisters, both terrified, both trembling, but both nodding. Let's go, he said. They sped through the dark streets in Iriti's black SUV. The city lights blurred past, the night alive with danger. Zane's phone buzzed again, another message from the same number as before. You can't protect her. This is bigger than you. Zane's jaw tightened. He texted back, who are you? A typing bubble appeared for a moment, then vanished. Iriti noticed. Don't engage. They are tracking us. Too late, Zane murmured. A pair of headlights appeared behind them, fast, gaining ground. Iriti cursed under her breath. Hold on. The SUV swerved as gunfire erupted from the pursuing car. Zara screamed, ducking as a bullet shattered the rear window. Zuri clutched her sister. Zane, do something. He reached for the steering wheel. We can't outrun them, we have to outthink them. He spotted a construction site ahead. There. Turn right. Iriti followed his signal, swerving into the half-finished road. The pursuing vehicle followed, its tires screeching across gravel. As they neared the barricade, Zane shouted, "Now, kill the lights." The SUV plunged into darkness. The chasing car, blinded by its own headlights, failed to see the open trench ahead until it was too late. A deafening crash echoed behind them as metal crumpled and sparks flew. Iriti exhaled heavily. "Nice thinking, kid." Zane didn't reply. He was staring ahead, at the dim outline of the hospital, now surrounded by police cars and flashing red lights. They stopped at the gate. A paramedic ran past, shouting orders. "What happened here?" Iriti demanded. "Explosion on the second floor," the medic yelled. "Some patients evacuated, but we are still counting casualties." Zari's breath caught in her throat. "Mama." The siblings pushed past the crowd, ignoring the warnings. The smell of smoke filled the air, and ashes drifted like snowflakes. Zane stopped at the sight of what used to be their mother's ward, now a blackened ruin. He dropped to his knees. "No." Zuri knelt beside him, tears streaking down her face. Zara clung to her, sobbing. Iriti stood behind them, scanning the area grimly. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her face went pale. Zane looked up. "What is it?" She turned the screen toward him. It was a message, sent from an anonymous source. "You were too late. But don't mourn her yet. She's not dead, just moved. If you want to see her alive again, bring the drives to the old wharf at midnight. Come alone." Zane stared at the message, his expression shifting from shock to fury. "They took her," he whispered. Iriti placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll get her back. But this time, we play their game." He stood slowly, his eyes burning with resolve. "No," he said. "We end their game." The night air around the old wharf was thick with tension and the salty scent of the ocean. Waves crashed against the wooden pier, their rhythm muffled by the hum of distant cargo ships. It was a place most people avoided after dark, a graveyard for forgotten deals and silent betrayals. Zane stepped out of the SUV, his breath misting in the cold air. He wore a dark hoodie and jeans, the USB drive stuck safely inside his pocket. Behind him, Zuri and Zara sat in the car with Agent Iriti, waiting, watching. "Are you sure about this?" Zuri's voice trembled through the open window. "They said come alone." "I have to," Zane replied quietly. "If they see any of you, they might hurt her." Iriti leaned forward. "Remember, Zane. Keep your earpiece in. We'll be monitoring from the van. You're never completely alone." He nodded, his jaw tightening. "Let's end this." He turned and walked into the shadows. The wooden planks creaked beneath his feet as he made his way down the pier. A single lantern flickered at the end, casting a faint glow on the restless waters. For a moment, it was silent, eerily so. Then came a voice. "Right on time, Zane Oladran." Zane froze. From the darkness emerged a figure in a long coat, tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing a hat that concealed most of his face. "Where's my mother?" Zane demanded. The man chuckled softly. "So impatient. You're just like her, always asking questions before understanding the game." Zane clenched his fist. "I didn't come here to play." The man took a step closer. "You have something that belongs to us." Zane reached into his pocket and pulled out the 2 drives. "I have what you want. Now show me she's alive." The man snapped his fingers. From the shadows, 2 masked men dragged out a stretcher. On it lay their mother, unconscious, hooked up to a portable fall. Her face was pale, her wrist bruised. Zane's breath caught. "Mama." She's alive, the man said. For now. But that depends on you. Zane's voice hardened. What do you want with her? She's leverage, the man replied smoothly. Your father's final insurance policy. He knew too much about the consortium, and before he disappeared, he hid something worth billions. And she knows where it is. Zane frowned. What are you talking about? The man smiled faintly. A coded account, hidden within the judiciary's pension system. Your father used his position to mask financial transfers for us, but before he could finish, he encrypted the final key inside a medical file under your mother's name. Zane's eyes widened. That's why you went after her. Exactly, the man said. Now, hand over the drives. They contain the access logs. Zane hesitated. If I give you this, you let her go? The man nodded once. You have my word. Zane stared at him, heart pounding. He could hear Iriti's voice faintly through the earpiece. Don't do it yet. Stall him. We are scanning the perimeter. But the man seemed to notice Zane's hesitation. He tilted his head slightly. Who are you listening to? Before Zane could react, one of the masked men yanked out the earpiece. He's wired. The man's tone shifted instantly, venom in his voice. So it's a setup, then. Gunfire erupted. Zane dove behind a stack of crates as bullets ripped through the wooden planks. He ducked, gasping, adrenaline flooding his veins. Zane. Iriti's voice came through faintly from the SUV radio. Hold on, we are coming in hot. Within moments, headlights flared across the pier. Iriti's SUV screeched to a halt as she and Zuri jumped out, returning fire. The masked men scattered, taking cover behind barrels. The mysterious man backed away, pulling Zane's unconscious mother closer. Stop shooting, he shouted. One more step, and she dies. Zane raised his hand slowly, emerging from cover. Wait. Don't hurt her. The man smirked. You should have come alone. He pressed a button on his wristwatch. A faint beep echoed. Then the pier beneath them began to rumble. Zuri screamed. He planted explosives. Everybody move. Iriti shouted. Zane lunged forward, grabbing his mother's stretcher just as a blast tore through the dock. Wood splintered, flames erupted, and the shockwave sent everyone sprawling. When Zane opened his eyes, he was half submerged in water, holding onto the stretcher. The air was thick with smoke. The pier was gone, half of it swallowed by the sea. Zuri! Zara, he shouted desperately. Here. Zara's voice echoed from the rubble. She and Zuri were climbing up the rocks, coughing but alive. Iriti was dragging herself toward them, limping from a cut on her leg. But the mysterious man was gone. Only the sound of distant sirens filled the air. Zane hauled his mother onto the rocks. She stirred weakly, eyes fluttering open. Zane, my son, you shouldn't have come. He grasped her hand. Mama, we're getting you out of here. She looked at him with fear in her eyes. They'll never stop. Not until they get the key. Zane frowned. What key? Her voice dropped to a whisper. The consortium, they think it's money, but it's something else. Something that can destroy them all. Zari knelt beside her. Mama, what do you mean? Their mother tried to speak again, but her voice broke. She fell unconscious once more. Iriti looked around nervously. We need to move. Reinforcements are coming. Zane nodded, his expression darkening. They think this is over, but it's not. If Mama's right, there's more at stake than money. Zara frowned. Then what is it? Zane looked back at the burning wharf, the flames reflecting in his eyes. Truth, he said quietly. And I'm going to find it. As they drove away, a black SUV parked on a hill overlooking the wreckage. Inside sat the mysterious man, unscathed, speaking into a phone. Yes, he said coldly. They survived. But it doesn't matter. The judge knows now, and he's waiting. He ended the call, his lips curling into a thin smile. The game just changed. The sun barely broke through the smoky haze the next morning. The triplets sat inside an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, one of Agent Iriti's safe houses. The air was thick with silence and the faint hum of generators. Their mother lay on a stretcher nearby, a saline bag hanging from a makeshift pole. Zane stood by the cracked window, staring into the grey dawn. His face was hard, sleepless, determined. Zuri sat beside their mother, wiping her face gently with a damp cloth. Zara leaned against the wall, clutching the 2 flash drives tightly in her hand. Agent Iriti stepped in, holding a tablet. I've cross-checked the data from the drives you brought back, she said quietly. And I think I know who we're really up against. Zane turned. Who? She hesitated. Justice turned Adeniyi. Zuri blinked. The same judge who's been presiding over Momo's case. Iriti nodded. Yes. He's not just a judge, he's the billionaire judge you've been hearing about in the news. Owner of multiple offshore estates, silent investor in several government contracts, and the head of an unregistered trust that channels funds from every consortium deal. Zane frowned deeply. So, is the one controlling the network? Exactly, Iriti said. Your father worked for him. But when your father found out the scale of corruption, he tried to leak it. The judge couldn't risk exposure, so he framed your father, manipulated the case, and targeted your mother to silence her. Zara swallowed hard. You mean Mama knew? She did, Iriti confirmed. She tried to warn the court years ago, but every lawyer that took her case backed out. Either bought or threatened. Zane clenched his fist. That's why he wanted the drives, so we couldn't prove anything. Iriti nodded. And it gets worse. She turned the tablet toward them. On the screen was a still image, Justice Adeniyi shaking hands with a familiar figure. Zuri gasped. That's Dad. Iriti zoomed in. This photo was taken 2 days before your father's so-called accident. According to the metadata, it was in Abuja, during a private judicial conference. Your father didn't die there, he disappeared. Zane's voice trembled. You're saying he's alive? It's possible, Iriti said. And if he is, only the judge knows where he's being kept. Zara's hand tightened around the flash drives. Then we find the judge. By midday, the group had moved to the city center. Disguised in plain clothes, they approached the massive courthouse complex where Justice Adeniyi was scheduled to attend a closed session review. Iriti handed Zane a small device. This is a voice transmitter. We'll patch into the judge's private office feed through his security network. But to get close enough, someone has to go inside as a delivery courier. Zuri looked at Zane. That's you. He nodded. Let's do it. Inside the marble halls of the courthouse, Zane wheeled a cart of sealed boxes toward the judge's office. 2 armed guards flanked the door, their expressions blank. I've got the files you requested from archives, Zane said calmly, flashing a fake badge. The guards exchanged a look, then nodded. Leave them inside. Zane pushed the cart through the heavy door. The office was enormous, polished mahogany, shelves stacked with legal books, and a wall of tinted glass overlooking the city. Behind the desk sat Justice Adeniyi himself, a tall, imposing man in his late 60s, dressed impeccably in a dark suit. His silver hair gleamed under the light, his expression cold and unreadable. Set them down, he said without looking up. Zane obeyed, but his eyes never left the judge. There was something unsettling about his calmness, like a lion resting before it pounces. Adeniyi finally looked up, his gaze sharp. You're not one of my regular couriers. Who sent you? Zane swallowed hard. Special Archives Division, sir. Urgent delivery. The judge studied him for a long moment. What's your name? Zane, Okoye. The judge smiled faintly. You remind me of someone. Before Zane could respond, Adeniyi stood and walked to a cabinet. He poured himself a glass of brandy, then turned slowly. Do you believe in justice, Mr. Okoye? Zane hesitated. Yes, sir. The judge's eyes glinted. Then you're naive. He took a sip. Justice is a performance, a balance between wealth, fear, and loyalty. The poor pray for it. The powerful manufacture it. Zane's stomach twisted. Adeniyi set his glass down and leaned closer. Tell me, Mr. Okoye. Does your mother still think she can fight me from that hospital bed? Zane froze. The judge smirked. Oh. There it is. You didn't think I'd recognize you. Before Zane could move, the judge pressed a button on his desk. The office door locked with a metallic click. I've been waiting for you, Zane Oladran. Zane stepped back, fist tightening. Where's my father? The judge smiled coldly. Your father is exactly where he belongs, serving a life sentence in a prison you never find. He thought he could betray me. But betrayal has a cost. Zane's voice shook. You ruined our lives. I preserved your legacy, Adeniyi countered. Your father was weak. He tried to play hero. But you, he paused, studying Zane. You have potential. Bring me those drives, and I'll make you more powerful than he ever was. Zane glared. I'd rather burn them. The judge chuckled darkly. Then you'll burn with them. He snapped his fingers. 2 hidden doors opened, and 2 security guards stepped in, guns raised. But before they could act, a flash grenade rolled through the doorway. Boom! Smoke filled the room as chaos erupted. Zane ducked, coughing, as Iriti's voice came through his earpiece. Move now. He darted toward the window, smashing through the glass with his shoulder and crashing onto the terrace below. Sirens blared as security forces flooded the building. He landed hard but kept moving, sprinting toward the street where Zuri and Zara waited in a stolen car. Go! Go, he shouted, jumping in. Bullets shattered the windshield as they sped away. The courthouse shrunk behind them, engulfed in flashing lights and smoke. Hours later, the group gathered in another hideout on the edge of town. The atmosphere was thick with exhaustion and disbelief. Zane sat quietly, his knuckles raw. He said Dad's alive. Zuri frowned. Do you believe him? I don't know, Zane said. But we are going to find out. Iriti was working on her laptop, decoding files from the drives. There's something here, she murmured. A folder labeled the Ejiro protocol. Zara leaned over. What's that? Iriti opened the file and froze. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. Zane moved closer. What is it? It's not about money, she whispered. It's a genetic database. Your father and the judge were part of an illegal bioresearch project funded by the consortium. They used patient data, including your mother's, to create synthetic DNA patterns for identity laundering. Zuri gasped. You mean? They were literally rewriting people's identities to move money through fake citizens, Iriti said. And your mother found out. That's why they wanted her gone. Zane's mind raced. Then this isn't just corruption, it's human experimentation. Exactly, Iriti said. And if the judge's network is exposed, half the country's elite will fall with him. Zara clenched her fist. Then we have to bring him down, publicly. Zane nodded slowly. We'll need proof. And I know where to get it. Where? Zuri asked. He looked up, eyes blazing with determination. At the judge's private estate. That's where my father's being held, and where this all ends. The night was cold and heavy with silence as the triplets stood outside the iron gates of Justice Adeniyi's sprawling estate. The mansion loomed ahead, grand, isolated, its lights glowing dimly through the fog. It was the kind of place that looked peaceful from afar but carried a darkness that only the brave or the foolish would enter. Zane adjusted the black mask over his face. "Once we get in, head straight for the basement," he whispered. "That's where the signal from the drives is pointing." Zai nodded, clutching a small flashlight. Zara checked the tranquilizer gun Iriti had handed her earlier. From inside the van parked nearby, Agent Iriti's voice came through the comms. "You've got exactly 20 minutes before the security rotation changes. I'll jam the cameras, but if Adeniyi's men spot you, there's no backup coming. You're on your own." Zane took a deep breath. "Copy that. We move." The triplet slipped through a gap in the fence and crept along the hedge toward the service entrance. The soft hum of generators filled the air. When they reached the door, Zane pulled out a small hacking device Iriti had modified, a repurposed fingerprint scanner. Within seconds, the lock clicked open. They entered quietly. The corridor smelled of polished wood and old secrets. Expensive paintings lined the walls, each one staring down as if guarding the sins of the house. "Stay close," Zane whispered. They moved past the kitchen, down a long hallway, until they reached a grand staircase. The faint sound of footsteps echoed above them, 2 guards on patrol. Zuri held her breath. When the guards descended the stairs, Zara aimed the tranquilizer and fired 2 silent shots. Both men collapsed instantly. "Nice," Zane whispered. "Let's move." They descended into the lower levels. The marble floor gave way to cold concrete. The air grew damp, metallic. It didn't feel like a home anymore, it felt like a laboratory. They reached a heavy door labeled "Authorized Personnel Only." Zane used the second drive as a decryption key, and the door slid open with a mechanical hiss. The sight inside froze them where they stood. Rows of glass chambers lined the walls, each containing medical equipment, vials of blood, and computer screens displaying human DNA strands. Several chambers had human silhouettes inside, suspended in a clear fluid. Zay gasped softly. "Oh my God, what is this place?" Zane's voice was barely a whisper. "It's what Iriti said. They were experimenting on people." A soft moan echoed through the chamber. Zara spun around, pointing her flashlight toward a corner cell. Behind the glass was a man, weak, thin, and bound to a chair. Zane stepped closer, eyes widening in disbelief. "Dad." The man lifted his head slowly. His face was bruised, his beard thick, but there was no mistaking him. "Zane," he croaked. "Dad." Zane rushed forward, slamming his hand against the glass. "We thought you were dead." "I should be," his father rasped. "You have to leave, son. He'll kill you all if he finds you here." Zai's eyes filled with tears. "We're not leaving you." Their father shook his head weakly. "Listen to me. The judge has been using me to build the algorithm that hides their money. But the real secret, it's not the data. It's you." Zane frowned. "What do you mean?" "The triplets, you weren't supposed to exist." Zara's heart stopped. "What?" Their father's voice trembled. "When your mother was pregnant, she volunteered for a fertility trial the judge funded. It was a front for his genetic experiments. They used her DNA, mixed with engineered cells meant to carry a code. You're the key to decrypting every consortium account in existence." The triplets froze in stunned silence. Zane's breath caught. "You're saying we're the encryption?" "Yes," their father whispered. "That's why he wants you dead, or captured. Without you, his empire collapses." Before Zane could respond, the sound of slow clapping filled the room. They turned. Justice Adeniyi stood in the doorway, flanked by 4 armed guards. "Well done, children," he said coldly. "You found the heart of the truth. Unfortunately for you, this is where your story ends." Zane stepped forward, fury burning in his eyes. "You turned our family into an experiment." The judge smirked. "I turned your family into history. Your father was a genius, but he lacked vision. I perfected it." He raised a hand. "Take them." Gunfire erupted. The triplets ducked behind the consoles as bullets shattered glass and ricocheted off steel. Zuri grabbed a metal rod and slammed it into the emergency alarm. Red lights flashed. Sirens wailed. Zane fired the tranquilizer gun, hitting one of the guards. Zara threw a smoke canister, filling the room with thick gray fog. Their father shouted from his chair. "Zane, the main console. Destroy it." Zane sprinted toward the computer banks as Adeniyi fired a real pistol, grazing Zane's shoulder. Pain seared through him, but he didn't stop. He slammed the drives into the ports and hit execute. The screens flickered. Data streamed rapidly. Files decrypted one by one, flooding into a cloud backup Iriti had set up remotely. Adeniyi's eyes widened. "What have you done?" Zane turned to him. "We gave the world your secrets." The judge lunged, firing wildly. Zane ducked as the bullet shattered the screen. Sparks flew. The system overloaded. Zuri and Zara dragged their father out as flames burst from the circuits. The building trembled with the force of small explosions. Iriti's voice crackled through the comms. "Get out now. You've got 30 seconds before the place goes up." The triplets ran through the smoke-filled corridors, their father between them. Behind them, Justice Adeniyi's voice echoed through the chaos. "You can't destroy me. I am the system." Then came the explosion. The mansion's glass facade shattered outward as fire erupted from its core. The blast threw the triplets into the dirt, debris raining around them. For a moment, there was only silence, then the distant sound of approaching sirens. Zane looked at his sisters, dazed but alive. Their father coughed weakly beside them. "It's over," Zara whispered. "No," Zane said quietly, staring at the burning ruins. "Not yet." Iriti arrived moments later in the van, bruised but smiling. "The files went live," she said. "Every major network is broadcasting them. The consortium's finished." Zuri helped their father sit up. "So what happens now?" Before anyone could answer, Zane's phone buzzed. He looked at the message, and his face went pale. "Nice work, Zane. But you only took down one side of the board. The real game begins now." Attached was a photo of their mother, lying unconscious in a different hospital bed. Zuri gasped. "That's not the same hospital." Zane's jaw tightened. He wasn't the only one running this. The sound of sirens grew louder as flames consumed the judge's empire. Zane turned to Iriti, his eyes burning with new determination. "Find where that photo came from. If they still have Mama, we are not done." The sound of the gavel cracked through the courtroom like thunder on dry land. "Order! Order in court!" shouted the clerk, his voice trembling as the tension in the room thickened. The three young adults standing at the witness stand, identical triplets, tall, dark-skinned, and fiercely determined, refused to flinch. Their mother's life hung in the balance, and they knew that every word spoken could either save or destroy her. All eyes turned toward them, Zuri, Zara, and Zane. The triplets stood side by side in their modest yet neat clothes, the weight of their mother's fate pressing hard on their shoulders. On the other side of the courtroom sat their father, Chief Oladran, a once respected businessman now wearing an expression colder than a rain-soaked tombstone. At the judge's bench sat Justice Adikana Adeniyi, a billionaire magistrate known across the nation for his ruthless integrity. Rumor had it that his verdicts could shake kingdoms and humble even the mighty. But no one expected that today, his gavel would hover between a broken family, betrayal, and blood. Zay, the eldest of the triplets by just 7 minutes, stepped forward, voice trembling but resolute. "My lord," she began, tears glimmering in her eyes, "our mother is lying in the hospital because of what our father did. We stand here not just as her children, but as witnesses of the truth." The courtroom murmured. Cameras from local and international stations roared. The story had gone viral long before this day, a woman clinging to life after a mysterious accident, and her triplet children determined to prove their father's guilt. Justice Adeniyi leaned forward slightly. "Miss Zoe Oladran," he said, his voice deep and composed, "you claim your father attempted to harm your mother. Yet, your father, a man of wealth and stature, insists she attacked him. You are aware that one of you is lying?" "Yes, my lord," Zoe replied. "But we have proof." "Proof he never thought we'd find." The judge's brows furrowed. "And where is this proof?" Zane, the only son among the triplets, reached into his jacket pocket and held up a small flash drive. "Right here," he said, voice firm. "But before I show it, I need to explain how we got it, and what really happened that night." The crowd leaned forward. Even Chief Oladran, normally composed, shifted in his seat. Justice Adeniyi raised a hand. "Proceed, Mr. Zane. But choose your words carefully. The truth has a way of punishing those who twist it." The young man nodded. "Yes, my lord. It all began the night Mama collapsed, the night our family shattered." The courtroom seemed to fade away as Zane's voice carried everyone back in time, to the evening of the terrible event. It had been a rainy Friday night in Ibadan. Thunder rumbled softly in the distance, and the Oladra mansion glowed under the golden light of chandeliers. Inside, their mother, Madame Famileo, was setting the dining table for dinner. The smell of egusi soup and freshly baked bread filled the air. Zara, the second of the triplets, had just returned from university. "Mama, Daddy's car just entered the gate," she announced, peering through the window. Madame Famileo's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the cutlery. "Good. I hope he's in a better mood today," she murmured. But deep down, she knew what was coming. For months, Chief Oladran had been distant, coming home late, snapping at everyone, hiding phone calls. Rumors swirled among neighbors that he was planning to remarry a younger woman. When the door opened, Chief Oladran walked in, his eyes sharp and heavy with pride. He wore a dark blue agbada embroidered with gold, his wristwatch gleaming like wealth itself. "Good evening, sir," Famileo greeted softly. "Evening," he replied curtly, dropping his keys on the table. Zane tried to lighten the mood. "Daddy, how was your trip?" "Long," the man said, sitting heavily in his chair. "Where's the pepper in this soup? It tastes like water." Famileo looked at him, exhaustion in her eyes. "I didn't want to add too much pepper." "You've been complaining of heartburn." "Are you calling me sick now?" he snapped, slamming his spoon down. "Famileo, don't you ever." Before he could finish, Zara stood. "Daddy, please. Don't talk to Mama like that." "Stay out of this," he barked. "You children are growing wings because of her." Famileo took a deep breath. "Oladran, I've kept quiet for too long. If you want to leave, leave. But don't destroy this home because of your greed." The room went silent. Then, slowly, Chief Oladran smiled, a cold, chilling smile that didn't reach his eyes. "So, you finally said it," he said. "You think you're the saint and I'm the sinner? You'll regret this, Famileo. You'll regret it before sunrise." He stood abruptly and stormed upstairs, leaving the family trembling. Hours later, screams shattered the stillness of the night. The triplets rushed into their parents' bedroom and froze. Their mother lay unconscious on the floor, blood trickling from her forehead. Chief Oladran stood over her, phone in hand, pretending to call an ambulance. "She attacked me," he yelled when he saw them. "She slipped trying to grab a knife. Help me get her to the hospital." But the look in his eyes told another story. Zuri knelt beside their mother, shaking. "Mama. Please wake up. Mama." Zane's gaze shifted to the desk behind his father, where a broken wine glass and a half-empty bottle of sedative sat. And beside it, a phone still recording on video mode. He didn't say a word. But in that moment, he knew something terrible had happened, and he would find out exactly what. Back in the courtroom, Zane's voice quivered as he finished recounting the night. "That phone, my lord," he said, "was hidden in the desk drawer after that night. My father thought he deleted everything, but he didn't." Justice Adeniyi's eyes darkened. "You mean to say there's recorded evidence of that night?" Zane nodded. "Yes, my lord. And when you see it, you'll understand why Mama ended up in the hospital, and why we stand here today." The judge leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "Then we shall watch this video." But before anyone could move, a loud gasp erupted from the gallery. Chief Oladran had suddenly collapsed in his seat, clutching his chest. The courtroom descended into chaos. Lawyers rushed forward. The judge stood abruptly. The triplets stared in shock. Zuri whispered, "What's happening?" Justice Adeniyi signaled for calm, his deep voice echoing, "Get a medic in here immediately." And as the guards hurried out, Zane glanced down at the flash drive in his hand, then up at his father's trembling figure. Something inside him whispered that this was only the beginning, and the truth they were about to reveal would tear everything apart. Rain poured down over the city like a curtain of glass as Zane drove through the darkened streets, his eyes fixed on the road but his mind spiraling. The phone still sat on the dashboard, the image of their mother, unconscious in a strange hospital, burned into his thoughts like fire. Beside him, Zara and Zuri sat silently, their faces pale and streaked with sweat and soot from the explosion at the judge's mansion. Their father, weak and coughing in the back seat, whispered between gasps, "That hospital, it's not local. I've seen that logo before, it's in Abuja." Zane's hands tightened around the steering wheel. "Then that's where we're going." Iriti's van followed closely behind, her voice breaking through the comms. "Zane, I've been tracing that message. It was sent from a private military network, one that used to belong to the judge but now routes through offshore servers. Someone else took control right after the data went public." "Someone else?" Zara asked, turning. "Yeah," Iriti said grimly. "And whoever they are richer, smarter, and even more dangerous." Zane's jaw clenched. "Then we'll face them." Hours later, the group arrived at an abandoned airstrip outside Ilorin, where one of Iriti's contacts was waiting with a private jet. The triplets carried their father onto the plane, exhausted but burning with determination. As the jet cut through the stormy sky, Zara leaned toward her brother. "Do you think Mom's still alive?" Zane hesitated before answering. "She has to be. Whoever sent that picture wanted us to see it. That means they're baiting us." Zuri frowned. "Then why use Mom as leverage?" Their father coughed again. "Because she's the last piece. Remember what I told you, your mother volunteered for that fertility trial. She was part of their first genetic map. If she's alive, she carries the source code that connects all three of you." Zane turned sharply. "You mean she's the original encryption?" Their father nodded weakly. "If they get her DNA, they can rebuild everything we destroyed." The cabin fell silent. Then Iriti stepped in from the cockpit, her face tense. "We are landing in Abuja. I hacked into the hospital security feed. Your mother's in a facility called Solis Biotech Center. It's not really a hospital. It's a private medical fortress." "Who owns it?" Zane asked. She swallowed. "A company under Adeniyi Holdings. But the listed CEO is Yemisi Adeniyi. Zara's eyes widened. The judge's wife. Zuri shook her head in disbelief. She was supposed to be dead. There were reports of her plane crash years ago. She faked it, Iriti said. Looks like she's been the one running the real operation all along. The jet landed just before dawn. The air was thick with mist and tension. The group split into two. Zane and Iriti would infiltrate through the main lab wing, while Zara and Zuri disguised themselves as nurses to access patient records. Their father stayed behind with the pilot, too weak to move further. When Zane and Iriti reached the compound, they saw how fortified it was: steel fences, drones overhead, guards in sleek black uniforms carrying pulse rifles. Looks more like a government facility than a hospital, Iriti muttered. Zane nodded grimly. Let's find Mom. They snuck past the outer guards, disabling sensors and cutting through maintenance tunnels until they reached the lower floors. Every door was locked with biometric access. But Iriti, a former intelligence analyst, walked quickly. Within minutes, she had bypassed the systems. Inside, the atmosphere changed, quiet, sterile, humming with cold electricity. Rows of glass walls revealed patients in suspended animation, each connected to machines monitoring their vitals. Zane's chest tightened as he saw his mother lying in one of the chambers, her body connected to glowing wires and intravenous tubes. Mom, he whispered, rushing to her side. Her vitals were steady but weak. Her eyes moved faintly under closed lids, as if she were trapped between dreaming and waking. Before Iriti could reach the control panel, a voice echoed through the room. You really shouldn't have come, Zane. They turned to see Yemisi Adeniyi herself stepping out of the shadows, elegant, poised, wearing a white suit that gleamed under the fluorescent light. Her eyes were cold, calculating. Zane froze. You're alive. More than alive, she said with a smile. I inherited everything when my husband's empire burned. And now, I'm about to rebuild it here, with your mother's help. Zane glared. You're the one who put her here. Yemisi tilted her head. No. She came to me willingly, before all this chaos began. She believed I could save your father's life. But she didn't know what she was giving up in exchange. Zane's heart pounded. What are you talking about? She gave me access to her genetic key, Yemisi said softly. And through it, I can recreate the system you destroyed. But this time, it will be mine alone. Zane's hands curled into fists. Not if I stop you. Yemisi sighed, as if disappointed. Still your father's son, always trying to fight what you don't understand. She pressed a button on her wrist console, and the security doors slammed shut. Red lights flickered. Guards poured into the chamber. Zane and Iriti dove for cover as bullets tore through the air. Zane fired back, hitting one guard square in the chest. Another lunged at Iriti, but she swung a metal pipe, knocking him unconscious. In the chaos, Zane reached his mother's pod and slammed the release panel. Sparks flew. The glass door hissed open, and his mother collapsed into his arms, weak but breathing. Her lips trembled. Zane, run. But before they could move, Yemisi's voice boomed through the intercom. You think you've won. The moment she wakes, every server across this continent will activate. Her body is the final switch, and when it flips, my control will be absolute. Zane's heart raced. No, we're ending this now. He grabbed a defibrillator from the nearby tray and placed one paddle on the control panel, another on the chamber's power hub. Iriti, cut the main power feed. She hesitated. If we do that, we might kill her. Zane's voice broke. If we don't, we'll lose everyone. Tears streamed down his face as he pressed the switch. A surge of white light flooded the room. The machine screamed, the circuits overloaded, and the lights blew out. The air filled with smoke and the scent of burning wires. Yemisi's voice cut off mid-laugh. When the emergency lights flickered back on, the guards were gone, the system's dead. Zane dropped to his knees, holding his mother close. She was still. Zuri and Zara burst into the room moments later, their faces pale. We saw the blast. What happened? Zane couldn't speak. His eyes were locked on his mother's face. Then, slowly, her hand moved. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly with a strange, golden shimmer. Zane, she whispered, her voice both human and mechanical. They tried to use me. But I changed the code. Zane stared at her in shock. Mom, what are you saying? I reversed it, she said weakly. Every system Yemesi built now answers to me. As she spoke, alarms sounded throughout the facility. The screens came alive again, but instead of Yemesi's logo, they showed her face. Zuri gasped. She's controlling everything. Yemesi's furious voice echoed through the intercom. You can't stop me. I own this technology. But her words were drowned by the sound of power surging through the building again. The screens flickered one last time, then shattered. Outside, the entire compound went dark. Zane helped his mother to her feet. It's over, Mom. You did it. She shook her head. No, not yet. Yemesi isn't gone. She had a backup in the cloud. The triplets exchanged worried looks. Then we'll find her, Zane said firmly. But before they could move, Yemesi appeared in the doorway, half-bound, her face scarred, holding a gun. You'll find me right here, she hissed. And I'll finish what your father couldn't. The sound of the gunshot echoed like thunder. The echo of the gunshot tore through the sterile corridors of Solis Biotech Center like thunder in a valley. For a moment, everything froze, smoke, silence, fear. Then came the sound of metal hitting the floor. Yemesi Adeniyi staggered backward, eyes wide with shock. Blood seeped from her shoulder. Behind her stood Zuri, trembling, a smoking pistol in her hand. Zuri's voice shook as she said, "No more blood, no more experiments." Yemesi tried to raise her weapon again, but her strength failed. She collapsed to the floor, groaning in pain. Zane rushed to his mother, who was barely standing, her body still flickering with faint golden light from the implanted circuits. "Mom, stay with me," he pleaded. "We are almost out." Their mother, Monarchy, looked at her children, her eyes calm despite her exhaustion. "You've done what I could not. You faced the truth." She winced as she spoke. "But my work isn't over yet. The system, it's connected to the world's justice grid now. It needs a verdict, one last command to determine its fate." Zara frowned. "What do you mean?" Monarch's voice weakened. "The program was built to obey the highest ruling authority, the Supreme Court algorithm. Whoever stands before it and claims the final right of judgment will decide what becomes of it all." Zane's eyes widened. "A trial?" Monarchy nodded faintly. "Yes. But not in any human court. It will judge us all." Before they could respond, alarms blared again. The building's speakers erupted with a mechanical voice. "Final system protocol activated. Central justice simulation commencing in 5 minutes." The triplets looked at each other, confused and afraid. Then the lights dimmed. The floor panels glowed beneath their feet, and the walls shifted into luminous holograms. It was as if the entire building had transformed into a courtroom made of light. Rows of digital spectators appeared, faces of global leaders, judges, citizens, projected from the cloud network Yemesi and her husband once controlled. At the center of it all stood a floating holographic podium bearing the inscription, "The verdict of blood, a trial of truth." The triplets helped their mother stand as a booming synthetic voice declared. Plaintiff, Monarchy Adibeo Adeniyi. Defendants, Yemesi Adeniyi and Justice Obafemi Adeniyi. Witnesses, Zane, Zara, Zay Adeniyi. The virtual chamber shimmered. To their horror, digital avatars of Justice Adeniyi and Yemesi appeared, fully reconstructed by the AI system. The late judge's cold voice echoed. So, even in death, I stand trial before my own creation. Yemesi's injured form straightened, her digital reflection smirking. And I stand as the rightful heir to your empire. Zane stepped forward. You both destroyed our family. You built an empire on lies and blood. The AI's voice cut in. Proceed with testimony. Monarchy spoke, her voice trembling but resolute. They manipulated science, power, and love. They used me as a vessel to breed encryption codes into human life. My children, my triplets, were never supposed to be children. They were supposed to be keys. Gasps echoed through the digital courtroom. The AI judge turned to the triplets. Do you confirm this claim? Zuri nodded, tears in her eyes. We were raised thinking our father was a teacher, our mother a healer. But we were experiments, engineered to protect their corruption. The system processed her words. Defendants, your response. Justice Adeniyi's hologram smiled faintly. You call it corruption. I call it evolution. The world's justice failed long ago. I built a system where power couldn't be bribed, only calculated. Monarchy glared at him. You built a cage for humanity, not justice. Yemesi's voice turned cold. And yet the world will always need masters to govern it. If not him, then me. The holograms flickered. Then the AI's voice boomed. Final ruling to be decided by bloodline authentication. Triplets of Monarchy Adeniyi, do you choose preservation or erasure? Zane froze. Preservation means the system survives, he murmured. Erasure means everything, every record, every trace, gone forever. Zuri whispered, but that means Mom's research, too. Monarchy looked at them, her eyes filled with pain and love. Children, the choice is yours. But remember, the world you leave behind will carry your decision. Zane turned to his sisters. If we erase it, billions of lives affected by their manipulations could be free. But if we preserve it, we can rebuild justice properly. Zuri hesitated. What if it falls into the wrong hands again? Zara looked at their mother. She trusted us to make it right. Zane took a deep breath, then faced the holographic judge. We choose preservation. But under one condition, the system must answer to no single person again. It belongs to the people. The courtroom fell silent. Then the AI's voice spoke. Condition accepted. Rewriting Judicial Authority Protocol. Verdict: the era of centralized justice is over. The network shall now serve all. A beam of golden light filled the room, spreading outward through the building, across the city, across continents. Screens in courthouses, newsrooms, and government offices flickered alive with the same message. Justice is free. Yemesi screamed as her hologram disintegrated. Justice Adeniyi's face faded into static. Monarch's body trembled. It's done, she whispered. The curse is broken. Zane caught her as she fell. Mom, no, stay with us. She smiled weakly, touching his face. You three were never just codes, you were my redemption. Her pulse faded as the golden light washed over her. The triplets held her close, tears streaming down their faces. When the glow finally dimmed, dawn broke outside. The city skyline glimmered with a new calm, the storm was over. Days later, the triplets stood at their mother's graveside on a quiet hill overlooking Lagos. Iriti joined them, her arm in a sling but her eyes proud. The world's talking about you three, she said softly. They are calling it the trial of the triplets. Courts across Africa are adapting the system your mother created. Justice will never be the same again. Zane looked at the horizon. She gave her life to fix what they broke. We'll keep it alive. Zuri smiled faintly. For her. Zara nodded. For truth. As they turned to leave, Zane's phone buzzed. A new message. It read. Justice is free. But freedom always has a price. The hidden judge. Zane stared at the message, a chill running through him. He looked up at the others. It's not over, he said quietly. Someone else is still out there. The wind whispered through the trees as thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, like a warning. And though peace had finally come, they all knew the battle for truth never really ends. Yes. The triplets brought justice to the world, but who is the hidden judge watching from the shadows? Is peace ever truly safe in a world built on seeker? Tears. What would you have chosen, preservation or erasure? Do you believe justice should belong to the people or to the powerful? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this story gripped your heart, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it so others can experience the full journey of triplets stand in court to justify their mother in hospital after husband did this but billionaire judge.